The Resident Evil franchise has produced some of the most disgusting and some of the most terrifying creatures. Sometimes they're even disgusting and terrifying. But do you know how these creatures were created? The simple answer would just be the T-Virus did it, and well, that's not incorrect, but most of the time it goes a little deeper than that. Please allow me to scour through all of these data files throughout all of these games to provide you with the origins of these lovely monsters. Might as well start off with the very first enemy you encounter, a zombie. A zombie refers to any person or animal that has been infected with the T-Virus and turned into a reanimated corpse. How long it takes for a living being to be transformed varies depending on how strong the immune system is. This can be up to 1 week in some cases, though it is generally within just a few hours. The transformation usually happens after being badly injured or killed by a T-Virus carrier. The most notable symptom prior to a mutation is extreme paleness and itchiness, or feeling sick and disorientated, maybe even vomiting. A zombie has lost all powers of reasoning and is driven completely by instinct. They can be defeated by severely damaging the central nervous system or extreme muscle and bone deterioration. And that just means shoot them up a bunch, preferably in the head. A zombie will continue to pursue its prey, even after losing limbs. This includes the entire lower half of their body. Even if that's gone, they still will not give up. Zombies that have lost the use of their legs will simply just crawl towards their prey. Other zombies lay dormant on the ground, but if anything comes near them, they will start biting. Since anyone can become a zombie, they come in many different varieties depending on the location of an outbreak. This ranges from ordinary civilians and police officers to workers and researchers that were experimenting on the virus. Some characters have even been turned into zombies, such as Marvin, one of Leon's seniors on the force, and Brad, the helicopter pilot for STARS. Zombies can actually mutate into new zombies called Crimson Heads, and even lickers after prolonged exposure to the virus. A modified zombie, sometimes known as a naked zombie, is extremely identical to regular ones but have no clothing and their muscles are noticeably bigger. They were fought by survivors during viral outbreaks at both Archive Laboratory and Nest. Crimson Heads are basically an upgraded zombie. After the T-Virus infects a human, turning them into a zombie, if said zombie is defeated, after some time its tissue regenerates, and the T-Virus causes further necrosis and blood seepage, giving them their crimson skin. But also small claws, increased resistance to firearms, slightly increased intelligence, and a much more aggressive attitude. Capable of running and jumping, a Crimson Head will pose as a major threat, especially to those who are unfamiliar with it. To prevent a Crimson mutation, you can incinerate, decapitate, or destroy the legs of a fallen zombie, therefore ridding any chance of regeneration and mutation. Our final zombie variant is a Palehead, a newer enemy to the series. It is a human mutation created from exposure to the Epsilon strain of the T-Virus. It is uncertain if this is another aspect of the V-Act effect or a totally separate mutation from zombies, as research on them ended before they could be reliably reproduced with new test subjects. The V-Act is just a code word that Umbrella used for the reactivation of the T-Virus after years of it being dormant. So, Paleheads were first observed around the events of the first Resident Evil, during bioweapons combat data testing in Raccoon City's Nest 2. Due to their unpredictability, the facility's shipping and processing manager Gabriel Reed insisted weapons that counter Paleheads be made available in the event of an escape. To reliably reproduce the mutation, the bioweapons research team requested the help of Police Chief Irons to assist in the transportation of abducted humans to serve as test subjects. When the T-Virus spread across Raccoon City, the population of Paleheads were free to take over in the panic along with other BOWs. This resulted in Nest 2's personnel being completely massacred. Similarly to zombies, Paleheads have declined intelligence but faster mobility. The cause of this mutation that grants them special regenerative abilities still remains unknown. Due to their capabilities not being all that great, they reproduce less than other BOWs, which doesn't really make all that sense to me since I just said they can regenerate their bodies. But since they can regenerate, the best way to kill them is to use high caliber bullets or acid rounds from the grenade launcher. These creatures were first shown in the Resident Evil 2 Remake's Ghost Survivors mode, and then they were carried over to the remake of RE3. Now we have lickers, also coming from a basic zombie mutating, but it seems this mutation comes from a different version of the T-Virus, found more commonly through Raccoon City rather than the Arclight Mountains. This creature got its name from its most distinguishing characteristic, its long sharp tongue which it uses to attack its prey. It also has its big old brain exposed, and some sharp claws. They do not have eyes, so they rely on their very good sense of hearing to detect their prey. Lickers are usually seen crawling around on 4 legs and climbing walls, but on occasion they will stand on their back legs to throw a heavy attack at the player. Some lickers have actually been enhanced. These variants are located in Umbrella's underground research facility in Raccoon City. They have greater resistance to firearms and stronger attacking power compared to regular lickers, and they are green in color. They are more agile and tend to attack in groups. Enhanced lickers also possess more developed senses that allow them to find their prey without hearing movement, but these evolved lickers can only be found in the original Resident Evil 2 and the Dark Side Chronicles. A licker beta is an also slightly modified version created by TriCell Inc. with the aid of the progenitor virus. in response to high demand for liquors in the black market, usually bought by wealthy terrorists for their durability and intelligence. The only real difference this liquor has to its original is a new weakness. The increase in muscle mass caused the creature's heart to become exposed, making for a new target to hit. These enhanced versions can only be found in Resident Evil 5. Let's talk about the Cerberus, an enemy I've always found very annoying, especially on the higher difficulty. It is a Doberman that has been infected with the T-virus. These dogs usually have parts of their organs and ribcage partially exposed. Cerberus were used as test subjects by Umbrella to test the effects of T-virus on dogs. They were given the code number MA39 and were named after the mythological three-headed guardian of Hades. They have been seen in the Arclight Research Facility and also running loose in the Arclight Forest area, which you can see from the opening cinematic of the original game. Several were also being transported within the train's fright car from RE0. Some people refer to them as zombie dog, but zombie dogs are actually a different species of enemy. Zombie dogs were created through accidental exposure to the T-virus as a result of the outbreak. These are the dogs seen in Raccoon City. They were police dogs that ate contaminated dog food and became zombies. And the zombie dogs found on Rockford Island in Code Veronica were actually military dogs used by Umbrella's special forces. From one annoying enemy to another, the Hunter is a human-animal hybrid which was genetically engineered as a biological weapon. The Hunter species were created through fusing reptilian DNA to a fertilized human embryo with the aid of the T-virus, which is really messed up. The Hunter project dates back to around 15 years before RE1. At the Archive Laboratory, it was discovered that there was a 10% immunity rate for the prototype T-virus. There was an idea of using mutated animals to get rid of survivors who were immune or not infected yet, but animal test subjects usually resulted in a loss of intelligence, which made them impossible to control and therefore worthless. So Dr. William Birkin sought out a way to solve this problem. The Hunter project's initial prototypes were produced by infecting human embryos 3 weeks after fertilization with a newly developed Beta 2 strain of the T-virus as a bonding agent, and then splicing in animal genes of reptile origin. The most promising test subject was cloned to create species of identical mutants. Hunters would take 1 year to mature and demonstrate intelligence equal to that of an orangutan, allowing it to recognize 10 different commands taught by trainers. Their skin would harden to form tough armor, which is obviously very useful up against armed enemies that they would eventually need to face. When the events of RE1 take place, the Hunter Alpha clones were being shipped to other Umbrella facilities around the world, including Sheena Island from RE Survivor. Years later, Umbrella Europe wanted to improve on Birkin's Hunter Alpha, creating the Hunter Beta. Due to Umbrella's ability to clone BOWs at a low cost, they were free to continue making more modifications to the Hunter, focusing on improving the Hunter's performance and abilities. While its attacking power was reduced, its nervous system was improved, decreasing reaction time when being shot at. Umbrella was deciding whether or not to mass produce it, trying to take advantage of the situation in Raccoon City during RE3. 20 of the Hunters were shipped to the United States and transported by truck into the city, where they were meant to be tested on by the American branch of Umbrella. It would appear that during all the chaos, the Hunters got out and started to occupy the Raccoon General Hospital. And now we have the Hunter Gamma, which was developed based on information retrieved from the American branch's Hunter Alpha model. The Hunter Gamma was created a little bit differently, involving human DNA being bonded with a fertilized amphibian egg, which is the opposite of how the alphas and betas were made. The resulting creature had several flaws that made them impractical for battlefield use, such as sensitivity to heat and their jaws being exposed when they try to attack a target. Umbrella ordered the destruction of numerous batches of this variant due to its uselessness as a weapon. One researcher who had grown emotionally attached to the Hunters under his care had defied this order, and had actually bribed a sewer manager in Raccoon City to allow him and some of his associates to move the Hunters underground and continue their research. He hoped to prove their worth and bargain with Umbrella's European branch to continue development. Though the creatures were docile and friendly towards the researcher and his associates, they very easily and violently killed at least 2 random sewer workers that happened to stumble upon them. At least 2 of them were captured and sedated by the Raccoon General Hospital staff, but Carlos accidentally released them while trying to create a cure for Jill. There are actually many more Hunter variants, but I will be covering those in a separate video. But the final enemy in this video is still kind of technically a Hunter variant, so let's get into it. Creatures known as ticks were developed at the Arclight Laboratory and appear to have been an insectoid version of the Hunter project. Ticks were designed as 2-legged BOWs in a similar style to the Hunter Alpha line. Aside from its brown skin and antennas, the primary difference between ticks and hunters is the possession of sickle-like arms, which were designed for cutting people into pieces. Most of you probably don't even remember encountering these creatures, and that is because they're exclusive to the Sega Saturn version of the original Resident Evil, replacing all Hunter encounters after entering the courtyard underground. They are honestly just a reskin of the Hunter and possess no actual differences from them. They act the same, attack the same, and do the exact same amount of damage. These enemies have not reappeared in any game since, though they were mentioned in a guidebook for Resident Evil 3 and for Resident Evil Code Veronica. And that's it for this one. I decided to start with the more popular monsters for this video, but there will be more, focusing on all the animal-based creatures, bosses, and enemies that appeared in RE4 onward. Also expect some videos about Overwatch, Mortal Kombat, Borderlands, and many more franchises. Thank you very much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful day.